Hey guys, Alex from Can I Kick It? Today's episode is brought to you by a very special company by a lady named Trina Ray. She does special embroidery, but she's done something clever with the name, and it's called Emfroidery, Emfreudery. We'll put a link in the description. But if you have any embroidery needs, and this is an example of some of her work, and I'll just be honest with you, I'm not too hip on the whole advertisement thing yet. I've never done this before, but here are some examples. This is my favorite one that she gave me. She does way bigger designs too, and the stitching is immaculate. You can sew this onto your purses, backpacks, jackets, but it's pretty quality stuff. Here's some bookmarks that she made, and so go over there to their website and check it out if you have any. See, this one is made from vinyl, and it has stitching through the vinyl. And it's kind of, can you see the glitter on there, Chris? Yeah, cool. So, yeah, go ahead over to their website and check it out. Good people, too. You're supporting a good cause. Thanks. Welcome to Can I Kick It? I'm your host, as usual, Alex Ralphie Ray, and I'm here with a good friend, an old friend, more like a sister-in-law, really. Her name is Monica Wonders.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
We've been having some fun setting up. Sometimes I have more fun just setting up and hanging out than actually doing the podcast, and I'm glad that you're here. Her husband's off stage. He's really ugly, so we're going to keep him off camera today, but he's a good guy.
What can you say?
All Jared pants. So why don't you just tell everyone what you do right now for a living?
Okay.
You're a teacher also, as well as a Reiki healer.
Well, teacher to my littles. I homeschool now with all the COVID stuff and everything. I was a teacher, but I left that. Just a bunch of programming for me, so I didn't want to be part of it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I left the teaching, and I went on just teaching the kids and doing some online schooling. But now I work at a crystal shop selling crystals, and I do Reiki also on the side.
What's the shop where you work?
New Moon Divination. We have 2 locations, one in Cloverdale and Nashville.
Okay, Nashville, Indiana.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find out about the store? I mean, is it a friend of yours, or did you just wander in one day?
No, it's from the town that I graduated from. I skipped town, left for a few years, married Jared, and we moved back. And just driving through town, I saw the shop and started shopping there and collecting more crystals to my own collection. And when they were hiring, I jumped on it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So have you felt like a calling for this for a long time? I mean, you've always been sort of interested. So I remember you talking about like sort of more alternative, I hate using this word, but like alternative methods of spirituality. I mean, you're a Christian, right?
Well, I was raised Christian. I've been through, I think, almost every spectrum of the religious rainbow there is, I guess.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. I always come back with the feeling that there's truth in all religions, and there's also, propaganda and fear, that's fear-mongering that they put
dogmatic.
into people.
Anytime there's something to cling to for hope, it seems like there's a dark force that comes riding on its coattails.
And when I was raised in Houston, and we went to church like every Sunday, every Wednesday, and maybe even another night for Sparks or whatever, or Awanas. But it was more like a, hey, believe in God or you're going to hell.
Yeah, and that's either going to drive people away or have them follow blindly, and then you miss the mystical, the adventurous, amazing part of Christianity.
Right.
I've actually come around recently to Christianity in some regard because I met some really good Christians. But there's this whole mystical element to Christianity that goes back thousands of years that's kind of been considered heresy as of late in the past 100 years or so.
Right. But, I mean, I have my roots in Christianity. I do believe in God. He is, the source. When I speak of source, that's who I'm speaking to.
So when they say spirit, that's kind of what you think of?
Well, it's not really spirit. It's everything. I mean, we are all one. We are all connected with all the frequencies, and he just is that. He's kind of sharing his own energy with all of us and everything else that we see.
The Hindus call it Atman, and that's every religion I come across. It seems to come back to some source. Not every religion, but most of the big ones. You know, outside of the Abrahamic, even. So walk me through the beginning of learning Reiki. Can you?
Okay, so I've grown up a very traumatic life in many aspects. We
have that in common, yeah.
Right. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, which had me laying in bed a lot of days. If I went to the grocery store, I wasn't getting up the next day, just because of the sciatica. Now I can, with the help of electromagnetic therapy that we discovered through a friend of Jared's, and also with Reiki, it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't, incapacitate me anymore. So that's great.
Right.
And when just this last year, after the pandemic and that summer, I was getting to where, I was having those shadows in my mind again, and those suicidal tendencies and those thoughts and everything. And I told my husband I need to get back to, my psychotherapist. I need to go back to him. He helped me when I was younger. But I went back to him, and it just years of growth, and it was just a completely different experience. I said, no way, I'm not going down this road again.
So that's conventional therapy, like
medications and
I see. They did that to me when I went to the Army, and I'm not going to say that they didn't help me, because they helped me get to the base of some more like CBT type stuff, cognitive behavioral therapy, which was really useful, but they want to medicate everything.
Right.
And the thing is, those doctors don't take the medicines that they prescribe, so they can't understand what it's like to be on those medications, and aside from like sexual dysfunction from those drugs, there's a reliance on them over time, and if you get off of them, I mean, that's a lot of the people that were involved in school shootings were on these
psychotherapeutics.
Right, antidepressants, anything that's like an SSRI or that messes with your serotonin levels is problematic in my opinion. And back in ancient times, from what I've gathered through all my research, medicine men partook in the taking of the herbs and the medicines that they gave out, and they understood what it felt like to use them, so they had a better understanding of medicine in general, and just plant medicine,
And not only that, but they gave the plants and herbs intention. So it's just like crystals. If you go to a crystal shop and you're like, hey, I need something that's good for sobriety, and they're going to point you to amethyst, but you need to take that amethyst home, and you need to cleanse it, and you need to set an intention for yourself, and get a relationship with that crystal and set its intention. Otherwise, it's just a pretty purple rock.
Right, yeah. So when you say a relationship with it, what techniques do you use to sync up with the crystals? I mean, the frequency.
Meditation with it.
Okay. So you're meditating on the. I'm just trying to understand. But
you can place it in your hand.
Okay. Feel it, touch it.
Your left side is for receiving. Your right side is for giving.
Yeah.
And so if you just meditate and you have an amethyst in your left hand, you want to receive what it has to give to you, and so it's going to give you those frequencies and kind of get your body on that same frequency so that it works well with you. If you have some negative energy that you want to put out, then you'll have a black obsidian or something in your right hand so that the obsidian is receiving it from you. You're giving it.
So black being more dense of a color on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So that would be, so to the contrary, a lighter crystal would be for more positive thoughts or some.
The white is going to be like your clear quartz. It's your super healer. It can work with everything.
Quartz, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so it goes along with the colors of your chakras.
Okay.
Typically. And
Are
the
those in
crown.
order of like the rainbow, like red, orange, yellow?
Well, you have red starting at your root, orange
Right.
is your sacral, yellow.
Oh, so it does move up rainbow. I never
rainbow.
thought about that.
And
Okay.
then the crown, or your Christ consciousness, is complete white and silence. That's
Okay.
the ultimate bliss. So,
Yeah.
and that lines up with clear quartz, and it intensifies and that sort of thing.
That brings up a good point. I just read something the other day about your Christ consciousness being like Christ being crystal. Like they have the same base word. So what you're doing when you manifest to that Christ consciousness, you're actually crystallizing your intentions. You know.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So whenever you went into the shop and you started vibing, did you talk to someone there and they were like, hey, you know what, you'd be a really good fit for the shop, or is it just something that you shot for?
I was just in there, and someone was turning in an application. I was there to pick one up. I'm like, hey, don't steal my spot. And so, the ladies, they were like, well, we're accepting more than just one position. So she gave me an application. I filled it out and got the job. But going back to how I discovered Reiki, with going to my psychotherapist, and I didn't want to go that route, I started researching different avenues for healing. And I came across Reiki, and so I had my first session. I booked it. I can't remember the lady's name. She's out of India on Broad Ripple. But I went in for an hour session, and I came out completely healed. I mean, she healed me of the trauma I went through with my dad passing, being split away from him from Houston to Indiana all my childhood.
Yeah.
A lot to do with my sexual abuse that I was a victim of. Healed me from that.
That's brave of you to talk about that.
Yeah, I can actually.
That's how you own it.
Actually talk about it now. Like used to, I couldn't even listen to my dad's favorite song without bursting in tears and bawling my eyes out. I can talk to him now. I can talk with him. I can talk about him. I can enjoy the things that we enjoyed together again. I can speak about my abuse and the issues that it caused me and how I healed it, and I can help advocate for others now a lot clearer.
Do you want to, this might be too personal, but do you want to talk about the actual process of getting over your past trauma with either the sexual abuse or the separation from your father, one or like what actually went into it, or is that too personal?
Well, I mean, it was really just the Reiki practitioner. She did all of the work.
Okay.
And she wasn't.
So is she like playing with your energy, sort of?
She didn't do the typical, start at the root and work your way up the chakras to the crown. I mean, she just placed one hand on my foot, and that was it. I was laying down, and she just had one hand on my foot. And she had conversations with my father and was able to, and I also was having conversations with my father at the same time.
Okay.
And so I then knew he was with me. So he felt he had to protect me in the spirit realm because...
Oh, he passed away?
He passed away.
I did not know
yes.
that. Okay.
So he's with me now in the spirit realm, watching over me in my soul, because he feels bad or responsible because he wasn't able to be there for me in the physical aspect before he passed during the time of my life where I was being abused.
Yeah.
So he's with me always, and now
That's
I
beautiful.
know that, and so I don't have any more troubles. I have no more troubles with that at all. It just kind of just washed away.
You know what? I can totally sympathize with that because, I feel like Mary Lou is with me a lot, and I've talked about it on the podcast. Like when I got sober, she was actually dying, and then right when she died is when all this catalyst started, and I've been feeling her more and more lately through. I don't know. I might have something here. I don't have anything with me, but at home I have like my little altar, sort of my created religion altar, and I have things like my tarot cards are wrapped in a tie-dye shirt that she left me. And then these objects, they're symbols of her, and I've been living, and I feel like she's here to protect me. So, sorry, that's just a side note, but so back when I was in the Army, and this has to do with Reiki, I didn't know it was Reiki at the time, but I have a friend named Andre East who lived with me, and really interesting dude, kind of mysterious. I was going through some really heavy drug use, like heroin and crack, and I was using hard, and I was just a tumbled mess, like knots all over me. And one day I was laying on the floor, just like numb and just miserable. And I was like, man, I wish somebody would just help me. I don't know. And I felt like I was going to die. And my buddy came over to me. He's from Louisiana, down by Nolans. And he like put his hands over me. This sounds crazy and like nobody's going to believe it, but I felt it. He put his hand over my chest. And he kind of floated above my chest in my sort of my crotch area, and was like floating above me. And then something happened in my chest, and like something came undone, and I just started bawling.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even feel like I was.
You can't control it.
No,
when Reiki takes over, Reiki knows where it needs to go. So if I'm focusing on my client's root chakra, but they have their core issues in their heart chakra, it's going to the heart. Yeah. You know, it's like, forget you, what you're doing. It knows where it needs to be. It's an intelligent energy. Yeah. So even though someone might channel it into a particular area, if it needs to be somewhere else, it will be. So yeah, during my Reiki session, that was done on me, it just unlocking, like you were saying, just unlocking and just the tears flowing. Yeah. And then afterwards, and for an entire week afterwards, there was just periods of time where I would burst into like laughter and happy and crying of tears of joy, just because I hadn't felt that in so long. Because
not since you were a child, probably.
I was carrying so many burdens, and traumas.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like on another instance, which this is a little bit different, but I was in rehab this past time, and this is when I made my big discovery. I was doing yoga, and they teach you that around your butthole, your rectum, that's where you keep all your resentment. And so we were doing this stretch to kind of stretch out your buttocks and around the area of your asshole. There's no other, let's just say what it is. But I was doing some stretching, and then at the end of the yoga, we went over to fetal position, and we rolled over, and she was like, hug yourself. And this sounds silly, and I don't care, because I really don't care anymore. You know, I know what I am. So I rolled over, and I like hugged myself, and I was able to like forgive my mom for all the terrible stuff that happened when I was a kid, and all these people that I felt had done me great injustices. And I just, once again, you know, just waterfalls. Yeah. And I was able to start loving myself. So when you're doing Reiki, do you see some parallels to massage? It's almost like massaging the spirit, right? I guess
it can be, yeah.
I'm more familiar with massage. So,
like that, yeah. But as far as like actually physically, I mean, it can be hands-on, it can be hands-off, or it can be over a distance. I mean, I've done Reiki with people in New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, as long as we have a set time, we just set a time, and then when it's time, I start. And, you know, either half hour or hour later, then we'll start talking again about how each other's experiences
Now,
work.
do you have to, before the actual Reiki session, do you have to spend some time with them syncing up? Or something?
You don't. Yeah. Some clients come to me and they tell me about their issues and everything like that, so I can get an idea of what I'm gonna hit. And other people are more, you know, they don't want to tell me about it. And then by the end, I'm like, hey, you really need to work on talking about, you know, the sexual trauma you went through. And they're like, oh, I didn't want you to know that. But I identify with. I know that energy so well that it's just so easy for me to pick up.
Yeah, it's easy to see in other people something you know.
Yeah.
Well, I read this book called The Source Field Investigations by David Wilcock, and so there is some science behind this. So basically, they took two people and put them in a room, and they meditated together for a while. And then one person went, I think it was Buffalo, New York, and it was a man and a woman that were together. They were in a relationship, and they meditated and slept together, so they matched up their circadian rhythms. Then they moved one of them out to Arizona, and at a time that they were both institutionalized, and they had monitors on their brains, and they took a light and shone it in the woman's eye in Buffalo, New York, and they were monitoring both their brain waves. And even though the person in Arizona wasn't aware of it, a light, the same part of the brain lit up as the other person.
As if there were light being shined in his
So
eye.
it's like quantum entanglement theory, sort of, or spooky action at a distance. So they're starting to find out more and more about this, and the CIA just released. Did you see that Stargate thing? Operation Stargate.
Oh, actually, I witnessed it, and I was like, I thought UFOs were probably like, shit, it's about to go down.
It was like
Oh, Starlink. Okay.
No, I'm talking about the CIA released these documents of like astral projection.
Oh yeah,
and they've been practicing it for a long time. That movie Men Who Stare at Goats, they were talking about that.
Yeah,
that's more Jared's expertise.
I've actually done it once. It was shut
astrally
down,
projected.
Though. Well, not astrally projected. Remote viewing.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Sort of the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. You've done it?
I've done it once.
Was it intentional?
It was intentional. Well, it was when we were planning on moving to Peru and made all the plans and sold all of our stuff, and then we ended up not going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I really want to go to Peru. So I started practicing it, and one day I unlocked it, and I was there in the mountains watching kids play soccer, and it was like awesome.
That's
amazing. And then it kind of just like the whole screen of my view kind of like hexagons, like a honeybee hive, and it just tiles fall down. So and it was
something was keeping you out.
Yeah, some
was
force saying nope.
Did it seem sinister?
Something that was maybe like a bigger thing going on, like, you know, our government's working on it and not wanting people to know that they can do this.
I've been online and got deep into and we'll get back to the Reiki stuff, we're just kind of a little tangent, but
it's all connected.
Some people were talking about astrally projection. They've been practicing for years. This is on Reddit, I think, and they said that when they tried to look into like the Pentagon and underground bunkers and stuff like that, that they were like followed back. Like these agents followed them back in to their lives. Like I've only had a minimal success with lucid dreaming where I was, I could make myself float. I was in my childhood home and I was floating like kind of like Iron Man. Like when I put my hands down, I could float around, but there was limits to it. Like I talked to this one guy who said that he was working on having 360 vision, like a fish, in his dreams, and he was having some success. But anyway, back to the Reiki. My bad. That's just interesting shit.
Well, the Reiki, it also goes into sort of like the astral projection. You can use the distance symbol, and that's how we do distance sessions. So I'll kind of like talk my way to somebody, to their specific location, and then I'll be with them, or I'll see them as their higher self, and the color of their aura and stuff like that, and we'll be there together. And
can you explain the concept? Sorry to interrupt, but can you explain the concept of the higher self? I don't fully understand it.
Is like your soul without a brain, I guess. Your
the driver of the car, kind of.
Yeah. That's how I feel, anyways.
So it's the child, like you, the one who's been untainted, and okay. Okay.
The one that chose to be here.
Right.
Trying to figure out why you
chose.
you
think we chose to be reborn, or you believe in reincarnation?
Reincarnation to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think there's, like I said, there's bits and pieces of everything that's the whole truth.
Right.
And we're all focused on you're this and you're that, you believe this, you believe that, so we're not getting anywhere.
Perspective messes it up completely, but perspective is necessary to survive, you know?
Right.
So, so you were talking about Reiki, you were working with a client from a distance, and you worked your way towards them, the higher self. And where were you going with that? I can't remember.
I was just saying that I just work myself to them to where we can then start communicating, and I'll hear things that I'm perceiving as their higher self telling me, like their past traumas and things like that. Sometimes I'll get visits from kids. I did a Reiki session on a woman who had lost her children at a very young age, and when I got to her heart chakra, it was, just a little kid screaming out to me like, "We're okay, we're okay, we're okay."
Wow.
Let it be, let go, let be. And so I told her that. I didn't know she had lost her kids, but I told her that, and she just broke down, and then she was able to heal from that, from the grief of
That's amazing.
Just encompassing her,
So, that's amazing. I think you're going to get a lot of calls after this. I hope so. So the guy who started Reiki, Dr. Mikao Usui, was around the 1870 time frame. He was on a 21-day fast on Mount what is it, Kurama?
I
just read this before you got here.
It's
so
in Japan.
really, he was a monk.
He would keep track of his days by pebbles. He would put out another pebble every day, and he would just meditate all day long, fasting and meditation for 21 days. And that's how he was able then to unlock his own inner and feel the sensation. If you just lay down and you feel everything, just feel the air come into you and feel the sensations that you don't normally think about. You're feeling it all the time, but you're not thinking about it because you're so used to it. But if you really try to, identify those sensations, then you start to feel those energy wheels and everything else. So that's how he discovered it. And he actually never did any in-person Reikis. He only did distance Reiki.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And so part of Reiki is where you have to heal yourself before you can start to heal other people,
You
right?
can't heal other people what you haven't healed in yourself. If I hadn't healed my trauma from my childhood, then I wouldn't be able to help others heal from their childhood. Now, that's not to say that, I haven't lost any children, but I healed somebody that has. But if I had lost children and I had not been able to heal from that yet, I wouldn't be able to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
So, is Reiki something that you do repeat sessions with someone? Or is it sort of...
Some traumas are buried deep. And so it's layers and layers of different things. Because when you get disease or you get to a specific portion of your illness where it needs surgery, you're not going to be able to go to a Reiki practitioner and get healed in a session because you've let that trauma go and that stress go for so long that it's turned into deeper illnesses to where it's to the extent. So if it's something that's really chronic, then it's going to need more sessions. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see a lot of physical manifestations of stress and trauma? Like, so if, for example, if someone had a child die and they've been hanging on to this and this unresolved kind of trauma, does it present itself physically?
You're killing yourself, yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Is it stress or is it just...
It's not only
it's a disease of the
stress,
spirit almost,
but you're
right?
thinking it constantly. So
Okay.
you're constantly putting yourself into that mindset of depression. So you're forcing yourself to be depressed. And it's, of course, there's that grieving time that you need to be able to heal from. But if you hang on to that, then it's going to work its way into different and bigger issues than than just grieving, like depression or suicidal tendencies and things.
Sorry. Welcome back. Sorry, I had to take a quick break for battery. So we were talking about the doc, Dr. Mikau, and so you grew up with that guy, right?
Yeah. My grandpa's best friend.
Yeah. In Japan, when you were a young Japanese girl. So, good guy. All right, so anyway.
No, but yeah, he meditated 21 days. That's why he learned his chakras and his energies, and he opened up all of it, and smooth sailing.
Yeah. Did he have a previous knowledge of chakras? I mean, that's an ancient form, right?
With him being a monk, I'm sure that he was well practiced in meditation.
Right.
So he was no stranger to that coming into it. Because you do have to have a discipline in meditating. It's hard to get your mind to stop wandering.
It's hard to relax, yeah.
Yeah, because we're just bombarded by stressors everywhere we look. We're programmed to be stressed, and that's why everyone is full of disease. Yeah. Disease is dis-ease.
Yeah, I've always said that. I've always said that. And the word dis-ease is just a lack of ease. Mm-hmm.
Just take
that's why when people try to tell me addiction's not a disease, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a choice to get into addiction, but it's just literally a lack of ease in your life. Mm-hmm. I've noticed since I've started healing myself, and there's been various methods of my healing that have come into play, but I've found the ability to calmly assess my emotions, and I wouldn't say control them, but channel them. Mm-hmm. I'm learning to guide the water as it flows.
Recognize it before you impulsively react.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Impulsivity is a hallmark of inevitable chaos, like shit's... when I start getting bitter and angry now, I take a beat and I breathe and allow my, I can feel, since I've been paying attention to chakras, I've noticed that, like, if I'm having some sort of sexual dysfunction, I know it has something to do with this, this area. And a lot of times I'll work on my thighs. Like, when I exercise, I'll work out on my thighs because that helps me build testosterone. And there's no reason that science and spirituality have to be at odds.
Right.
There's a lot of evidence that shows that the two, go together really well. So why don't you walk us through some of these crystals? Like, what's this one?
Okay, so this is a selenite wand. Some will be very angry that I call it selenite and say that it is satin spar. Satin spar, selenite, and the desert rose, which is this one here. Here's desert rose. And then I also have selenite here, a small piece.
Do you want to try to get a close-up with that, Chris, can you?
So all three of these are made of gypsum. So this is satin spar, this is selenite, and this is desert rose. Desert rose is selenite, sand, and water.
Looks like a flower.
To make a desert rose.
But they all have the same crystalline makeup?
Yes.
Okay.
So these are good for cleansing your chakras, cleansing your crystals. You can just they have these in bars that you just set your crystals on to cleanse. They don't need cleansing, and it's white. So like we were talking before with the colors and different things, it doesn't need to be cleansed because it is clean.
Okay, it's nice and white, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I will use this in my Reiki sessions to kind of, first of all, I'll put the butt of it to my palm chakra, and I'll hold it like this. That way my energy, the Reiki energy, is coming from me and going through my palm chakra, through the crystal, and then to the client.
Does it matter if you're right or left-handed?
No, it's just left is receiving, right is giving.
So when you wear a wedding ring on your left hand, is that similar at all?
Receiving the gift of love or the promise.
That's interesting.
That could be.
Okay. So what would you do for someone who was struggling with addiction?
Struggling with addiction, I would work on their solar plexus because that is where your will and your power come from.
And desire.
Your willpower. It's your joy. So if you're depressed, that's in your solar plexus. And most people get into drugs because they are mind altering to where they can change them and take them to a different reality for a little bit. A different kind of mood.
Altered states,
So I would definitely start working on the solar plexus.
And then work out to some other traumas, which inevitably it'll lead to.
And whenever I start, I'll typically give a scan of the whole body. And I can intuitively pick up and feel the pangs. When I'm pulling negative energy from people, I feel it coming up, and it rests in my elbows. When that gets really heavy, then I'll kind of shake it out and throw it away, and I can feel it leave, and then I can go back to get more.
Is it possible that you could come across somebody with so much negativity that it would affect you?
It's not going to affect me because when I'm doing Reiki on a client, I'm doing Reiki on myself as well because it's being channeled through me. So it's coming through me. As long as I am visualizing and intending for it, it is actually, I'm not giving out my energy, I'm pulling Reiki in and I'm pushing it out, channeling it out.
So you have to have a very... And this kind of goes with being an empath, if you believe in that sort of thing. I've always been extra sensitive towards other people's suffering because I recognize it so much in myself. But you have to establish very clear boundaries on what you allow yourself to feel, recognizing what is your responsibility, and recognizing what may not be your fault but is your responsibility. You know, there's a lot to learn there, I think.
And it's also important to detach yourself from the client, or from, even if you're doing Reiki on yourself, detach yourself from the results.
I see what you mean.
There's not like
a letdown.
A letdown or anything. You have to truly believe that Reiki is coming into you and that it knows what it's doing and it's gonna fix things.
That has a lot to do with magic. The magic that I practice is that, supernatural is just supernatural. It's natural taken to the next level. And you have to, if what you believe becomes a reality. And perception is a tool to manipulate reality. You know, that's all magic is to me, and I use symbols to alter that.
Right.
All right, so let's keep going with the crystals. So what crystal would you use on the solar plexus?
Yellow aventurine.
Okay. Is that the color of this chakra?
It's the color of the solar plexus chakra, yes. And that typically is how you would identify what stones are good for what is through their color.
Okay.
But then you also have things like this one is charolite, and it has some black in it and some purple in it. And this one is good for people who are close to passing, to accepting that, and to, if they're lonely, like if they're at home alone and, you know, people are just coming in and caretaking for them or whatever, this would be a good stone for them, for their loneliness and easing them into their stage of passing.
Helping them to accept it. Yeah.
And then this one is the blue apatite, and it's good for concentration during meditation. It's a high frequency, it's for your third eye, but like it's good for people with ADHD, ADD, and those
I'll
sorts
take
of
that.
things. You can hold it and feel its energy.
That's like my favorite color too, that type of blue.
It's a nice stone.
I like that one. Yeah. Ooh, what's this? This guy's sticking out to me. What's that?
This is blue goldstone. So this one is man-made. So the sparkles you see are copper, and this stone was invented back in the day when they were trying to make the philosopher's stone and all that jazz and turn things into gold. So this was the alchemist's invention here. This one is charged with a special intent of mine that I did during a full moon, and
is that a personal stone?
It's personal, yeah. So I just keep it around to keep that intent going, and
I definitely can't borrow it then.
No, but it's definitely working. So it's a good one. I also have. Here's a smaller piece.
Okay. Oh, cool.
And then also the green goldstone, which also has those shiny flecks in it. And this one is especially good for Reiki practitioners because it's green and that's health. And
it almost looks just like this one, it's just green.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, green and blue.
Those are my two favorite colors. I like these. So if it has copper in there and little flecks, then it has some stronger electromagnetic properties, probably. Yeah, and I'm talking out of my ass here. So.
You know, it does pick up on the attributes of copper, right?
Okay, cool.
This is my favorite crystal from the beginning of my crystal loving. It's lapis lazuli.
That's one of my favorite stones. Yeah.
So it has the pyrite in it, and that's where the gold is. That's how you know it's lapis. If it's just a blue and white, it's probably going to be sodalite. Okay. But these are both very nice stones. That looks like an ice obsidian.
Yeah?
I have an
This was a gift for someone on my birthday the other day. The
Yeah.
crystal in the water bottle. Can you see that?
Obsidian here.
Is that the same thing? Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that for?
So your water will then absorb or change. So the recent studies with talk to your plants, and because the water,
there's a lot of evidence to support that.
And the water, you know, and the crystallizations of the water, snowflakes and stuff like that. Right.
Where they froze the water with intent. Like, and then when they put an obscene word on the bottle of water and then froze it, it was a more chaotic pattern. It wasn't as symmetrical of the ice crystals. That's really interesting.
So the properties of the crystals that you choose to put in your water is going to give that water those properties. So with you having an obsidian in your water, that's going to collect all of the negativity. So in your instance, you're not putting stuff into your water, but you're taking out the negative.
Ooh. That's what I need. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah. But anyways, these wands, I use them during Reiki, like I said, to help the energy get going, or to pull out negativity, or to give certain frequencies and stuff like that.
So I brought my little collection, and I have this. I bought this off the internet.
Right.
I think it's citrine.
It is citrine.
Yeah, and that's for business, is what I was told.
It's good for money making, and business.
It seems to be working.
For my business, I have the flower agate.
Okay.
It's a palm stone. It's in my other pocket here. Oh, singing bowl.
Oh, cool. We can do that to take us out.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be great.
This is the flower agate.
All right.
And it's supposed to help businesses bloom like a flower should, so.
I'm going to have to order some of this. I'll get with you after this. I want to make a list.
Yeah, for sure.
And Kylie's trying to get into this stuff a little bit, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of switch gears to the smudging. I want to understand this better. I have sage. I like the smell. It helps me to concentrate, and it kind of takes me out of my work day. So when I've had this heavy work day and I'm like thinking obsessively, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I burn this and I sit down, take my shoes off, let my feet touch the ground, and just kind of relax. And what's your take on sage?
On the sage, it's purifying, so it's taking out like the obsidian. It's taking out.
It actually has some
cleansing.
Purification properties, like it actually kills bacteria in the air, right?
Yes, it does. And so some people with their smudge sticks, they will add other things like cedar or eucalyptus or rosemary or lavender for an added sense. Like lavender would be soothing also.
Yeah,
so not only are you cleansing, but you're also soothing. Okay. When you smudge, you want to make sure that you get all around you. Okay. 360 all around.
Someone told me to have a door open when you do it.
A door open when you do it so that it can all leave. Okay. So that you don't want to smudge yourself for it to go and hover in a corner to latch onto you later. You want to get out of here. And you'll say a prayer or some sort of prayer or intent for... I usually say something like, I'm now sending this negative energy to the source to be transmuted into positive energy for it to be recycled to people when they need it. So then that way, it's not just roaming around out there. My intention is for it to go to source and be transmuted into positive energy.
That's awesome. So you having a background in Christianity, and we'll start to wrap it up here soon. Thank you for coming, by the way. It means a lot to me, and we're basically family.
We
and
could spend hours on this topic.
You guys have been homesteading.
Yes.
Out there, and I'm not going to go into too much. I don't want to give away your spot, but you and your husband are working hard with all your kids to make a homestead. I want people to know that this subject, Reiki, crystals and sage and stuff, is often associated with witchcraft or Satanism.
Right. No, it's like I was explaining to her earlier. A lot of people come into my shop and they're like, oh, there's a lot of witch stuff. You're not one of them, are you? And I'm like, well, it just depends on what you consider a witch. And then when I start talking about Reiki, then they connect with that. I'm like, oh, well, you're not a bad witch, and stuff like that. I'm like, well,
a good witch.
Okay. But it's still witch, that sort of thing. But I still pray to God. God is the source I'm sending it all to. I'm calling upon
God made all this stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm calling upon His angels. I'm working with His intent with me. It's all good intent. Reiki will not do ill intent. It will not. It can't. It's of love and light. It's alive, from source. Okay. And... with our homesteading and getting off the grid and being more grounded and more rooted, you got to start at the roots.
You feel more natural.
Yeah.
So the word Reiki we were looking up means, Rei means, what was it, of light?
Spirit. The Rei is like the spirit, the soul.
Yeah, and then Ki is like Chi.
Like energy.
That's really cool. And my last name is Rei, so I'll hang on to that. And Rei also means king in Spanish, and royalty in English originally. Where do you see yourself going in the future with this? Do you want to start your own store out of the homestead, or
are
you taking on students?
I'm not taking on students at the time. I do point people in the right direction. I have a book. When I was taking my online course, I went to the shop and I came across Magik of Reiki by Christopher Pengskak. And so as added information, but it was literally step by step. and more. So if you want to
Okay.
learn to channel and do Reiki, this book right here will do it.
Yeah, what kind of supplies should people have to start out for themselves, to heal themselves?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Just literature, right? Just
I mean, if you just meditate, you're meditating and you're getting it, when you start putting intent to your meditation and you're doing something and you're working on something, you don't even need to really know Reiki. People intuitively do Reiki on themselves without knowing that they're doing it. Your stomach hurts, you hold it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Your head hurts, oh, you massage it.
I still go back to that guy holding his hand over my chest but I don't know. I talked to him today because I was thinking of you, and he said, yeah, people catch a lot of shit about it, and because he's a real scientific guy. He does trade stocks and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, but he said, I know what I've been told by other people, and it feels, and I mean, what do you have to lose by checking it out? If you're going through a hard time, get a hold of Monica. If you have any questions, book a session.
Yeah.
You taking sessions right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And you can get a hold of her about prices and times, and like she said, she does distance healing. And unfortunately, we have to cut the podcast short because it's Sunday night and everybody's got to get to work tomorrow. But thanks for stopping by. Is there anything you want to say to everybody before take us out? The singing bowl. Yeah.
The singing bowl. All right, we'll just do that.
You want to do a prayer or something? Yeah.
Just get it going.
Cool.
The frequency. And there's that.
That's amazing. Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
I love you, dude. All right, thanks for coming to Kick It, and we will see you next week. I think my next guest is, I don't know, just check out the podcast. Y'all have a good weekend. Bless you all.